Wait, what did you say? Oh, did you say OnlyFans?
I said, shall we do a play, watch, listen OnlyFans?
There are no bad ideas in this brainstorm.
I am so recording now.
Hold on. I gotta no. Can I have
a chance? You saw me.
We've been doing a thing.
We're live.
I need 5 minutes. Can I have 5 minutes?
Yeah, you can have 5 minutes. So the OnlyFans.
I mean, this is the podcast. He's on it.
Is just Troy,
this is the show.
Obviously. The whole OnlyFans is just
How dare
pictures
you?
of Troy.
I think I'm where the money is. I feel like there's an audience.
Yeah, we can vary it up.
We need to do the Burt Reynolds photo shoot of Troy, and that will, we're going to be swinging out of the gate.
I like it.
There's a crowd that would invest in any of us. Like, it's fine. There's people out there.
If it exists, somebody will pay money to see it naked.
I like your use of the word "it" to describe us. I think that,
it's true.
I think that both, if no places us correctly, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
I think it's fine.
I considered starting an OnlyFans just to post pictures of dogs, but be like really explicit, to be like, this is just dogs that I saw on the street, and then like donate all the money to an animal rescue or something, just to see what would happen. And I feel like what would happen is that people would be very upset with me.
What you need to do. Here's the 2 suggestions I have of that excellent idea.
Please tell me. Yes.
Number 1, really head-scratchingly odd, provocative dog poses where you're like, is that...
It's the ones where it's the dog's butt and they're looking back at the camera.
Yeah, where you're like, I feel like that's supposed to be sort of risque, and yet I can't intellectually argue what makes it that. And like, there's this great Family Guy bit where he's at a like a rooster, like a hen strip club, and there's a stripper behind the glass, and Peter goes, now lay an egg against the glass, and like an egg comes out of the hen and shatters against the glass, and he turns and looks at the camera and goes, I defy you to tell me what's wrong with this. And I think it's so fucking hilarious. So it's like, so there's that. And then part 2 is, of course, you have to then sell bottled dog bathwater because that's apparently a thing on OnlyFans as well.
I think only one person did that.
But to the tune of like millions of dollars, which is...
I think so. I actually don't know how much money she made. And people did try to like... People were upset.
Actually, on my shelf. 1 second.
I'd be like, you got Belle Delphine's
I waited till Austin had a mouthful of water.
Oh my god. I did almost hose my computer with coffee. That was an earnest near spit take.
I do know someone who bought some for the meme, which is like how that business proposal worked, and also how she became famous is very specifically by like embracing meme culture in a way.
The absurdity of it. Yeah, absolutely.
So a lot of people bought it because it was funny. But then they were like, we need to do tests to see if it's real bathwater. Like, this is false advertising. Like, people were quite upset about the stupid.
I love the lab. I love the lab that gets that.
Depending on interest, she must have to like change her hygiene.
I think she only did it one time when they all sold out. So.
Oh, okay. It was like a limited supply. I mean, I guess that adds to the value, right?
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Exactly.
I love the idea of the like toxicology lab getting the call. Can you verify the authenticity of this bathwater?
Yeah, I mean,
there's an expert. There's one guy in the world who's an expert in like crime scene bathwater.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And he can. He's like Sherlock Holmes. He can tell you exactly like which shampoo brand was used. Like,
yep.
And if it's dog shampoo.
And it incidentally is Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah, weird coincidence. Weird coincidence. It's a side hustle.
Yeah. I'm absolutely recording, by the way, right now.
No, this is all in the show.
Yeah.
This is solid
Play Watch
gold
Listen
content.
Bathwater is in the show. But
I mean, I'm just grateful that Troy. I'm just grateful that Troy doesn't have his microphone on him, so we get to kind of, we don't have to listen.
It's true.
I once did that. I once wore a radio mic. I once wore a radio mic into a bathroom. Fortunately, switched it off just as I walked into the bathroom. I realized and switched it off.
Quite often at IGN when we be doing live shows, like there's like several things that happen, but if I'm wearing a dress and I have a radio mic, it's like this terrible thing of like having to wear a leg strap sometimes or whatever. But I'd go to the bathroom. I would always disconnect my mic. I remembered to do that. But the problem is that I will still have my IFB in, so I can still hear people talking in my ear. And when you're just peeing, and a grown man is like, okay, 5 seconds. It's just very invasive in a way that you've not, like, I can't really take that out with, like, ruining my whole hair and having it fall off and, like, screwing the shot for when I go back. And when you come off a live show, you really don't have long to make that kind of transition. It's very, very strange to be on the toilet and have someone you know speaking, like, right inside of your brain. Not much you can do about it, turns out.
I always thought it would be a really funny idea in that vein to have, like, if you had reversible, like what's the term, one-way mirror or one-way windows, two-way mirrors? What's the
one-way mirror?
Where, like, from one angle it's a mirror, from the other angle it's a window. I'm blanking on the term, but you know what I'm talking about. I always thought it'd be funny to have that for bathroom stalls where to you it's a window, to everyone else it's a mirror. So on the toilet you can see everyone, but they can't see you. So it's this oddly, like, your brain would be saying, I am so exposed, but you're not. And
so there are buildings with, like, urinals up against windows that are done like that.
The Soho House in West Hollywood, absolutely. But it's from the 20th floor or whatever, so it's like you're staring out over Los Angeles. It's not like you're staring. Really?
Does anyone here ever want a jumpsuit or a romper? They do have man rompers these days.
I mean, I try and keep my personal life off.
That's right. I shouldn't have asked you that. That was invasive. I apologize.
Yeah, it's a very,
you can take
very
it to Play, Watch, Listen HR after our OnlyFans conversation we just had. No, but there's this really funny thing where if you're wearing a jumpsuit or romper would be probably more correct. I saw someone tweet about it just yesterday, where you just have to be, like, completely naked if you go to a public restroom, because you have to take the whole thing off.
Oh, you take the whole thing.
Yeah. So you're just sitting there like in a public restroom, like completely naked, just like, okay, well, nobody could see me, but it's extremely uncomfortable.
Also, in your country, the doors have gaps at the sides.
It's terrible. I don't know why they.
I don't understand.
Is it for drugs? I hate it.
That's my.
Is that just something that all Americans just accepted as, like, it's fine to have a gap?
I've made eye contact with people through those. Oh.
Because of the strobe effect, as you walk, if you've ever, like, walked past a row of them and, like, just automatically just looked around you, because of the strobe effect as you walk past, you see everyone. It's horrible.
Terrible.
Just build doors that fit the holes you make.
Strongly agree. Also, less water. Why does it have to be so noisy?
It really is.
Yeah. Why does that have to be so what?
Noisy. There's so much water in American toilets.
Yeah, we like to flush it hard. Why is that?
Are you recording?
I defy you to tell me what's wrong with this. We absolutely are recording.
We all are.
I'm recording.
Okay, cool.
This is such good content we have to do.
This weird, like, maybe I need to do that. I don't know. I get this weird echo. I feel. There we go. That's what it was.
I'm on the edge of my seat here.
I'm on the edge of my seat. I have a friend of mine that would always go. Not always, but on rare occasions, if we were at the movie theater or whatever, and he was a tall fellow, he's my height, if not even taller. And
Your what?
My height, if not even taller.
Just checking. I thought I heard you say height, and that's one of those weird.
So here's the okay.
That's
so here's
that's one of my weird little triggers. Yeah.
This was an argument that we had on set of Uncharted 4. Those from Texas will often say height. Now,
all right,
it is an actual archaic, albeit archaic, Alanah's face, accepted version of the word height. I understand that it's weird. But I was not really made aware of the uniqueness of that variation until I was standing in front of Nolan. Height. Look it up. It is an archaic
It's like
version.
when someone pointed out that Shakespeare sounds better with an American accent, and they theorize that that's how the accent evolved. If I said that, I must have said that on the show before.
I've heard that before.
I do know that, like, if you go to, like, people in like their Carolinas are probably the closest to the original English. Whatever.
The idea is that the English accent, as we know it now, is quite a recent invention, and the rhyme scheme in Shakespeare actually kind of suits an American accent more. And the theory goes that actually a lot of the sounds that we associate with American speech are actually historically how English was spoken, and we're the ones who've changed our accent over time.
I think that Americans invented that to feel like they are the true accent.
I think so. That sounds like us.
Although
it's better in the original Klingon, of course. That's the real.
Oh, nice reference. I do think that.
By the way, Austin. Sorry, apologies. Star Trek. Because me and Kerry were really cool. We watched every Star Trek movie over the weekend. And
how do you define every
the
motion
original
picture
cast, so
through
1 to 6, 1 to 6, the original cast, the classics, and I was struck by how basically the movie no one's seen, which is the 5th one where they go and meet God. Mm-hmm.
You bite your tongue. What do you mean no one's seen that?
I haven't. I didn't know they go and meet
Excuse
God.
me. What does
No,
God
you
do
don't.
with the
No,
starship?
because no one's seen that movie.
You don't
That
ask the
movie's been
Almighty
wiped
what he
off of-
wants. What does God do with the starship?
Was that Horner, Austin? Was that James Horner?
That's Jerry.
That's Jerry Goldsmith. He do you know if he did the score for First Contact?
he did.
Jerry reused all of that score.
He did
That
more
score,
Star Trek films than any. He basically
anyone else.
owns Star Trek to the extent that any one composer does, because he did the motion picture, he did Final Frontier, and then he did First Contact, Insurrection, Nemesis, and they use his theme for Next Generation from motion picture, and he did the theme for Voyager.
So First Contact reuses all this is musical. You wouldn't understand, Troy. This is musical symbology.
I literally have four.
Whoa!
Boom! It's a reversal. I'm talking about leitmotifs, and you've got book.
You've got reverse Uno carded hard there, Bithel.
That's incredible. But seriously,
It's
Austin, you've
every
got
note of music he wrote.
You
for
are
that
playing
movie.
that to me over Zoom at some point. We're doing that.
Or right now.
First Contact, he's just ripping off all his leitmotifs and themes from 5. And he got away with it because no one watches 5, except Troy.
You're saying that that's the theme to First Contact.
The first half of that is a recurring theme in 5.
I have to go back and listen to 5 because I mainly...
He basically takes a bunch of bits. If you listen to 5, all the building blocks are First Contact. And of course you've got the Klingon theme, the...
Yep.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's
and
not
that's your
fair.
first but those 2 tracks, that's your First Contract score, except for, and here we go, this is a real test, the Borg theme, which is
Bank.
Yeah.
You can't play that one, Austin? That's embarrassing.
I can't
Yeah,
remember.
man.
Yeah, I know the...
So it's
Put your
basically
head back.
Klingon slowed down.
It's something like that.
Oh no, you have
it
us.
is. He's nearly there. He's nearly there. But yeah, no, seriously,
because
Austin,
that's one of those great Star Trek convergence moments, because in First Contact you see the Borg cube being attacked by all the ships, and then the Defiant shows up fresh. Captain by or wait, no, it's not Captain by Worf. He
it's
takes
Captain
over.
by Worf.
Oh, okay, because I do know that Jerry
And that's
whips
the
out the
Klingon
Klingon
theme comes
theme.
in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because he's Worf.
But I thought
That's
it was
brilliant.
I thought it was Worf taking over because, but no, it makes sense. I'd have to watch it again.
I
Now
think
kiss.
Avery Brooks wouldn't do it. But seriously, Austin, 5 and First Contact back to back. I think that's a good watch from a composer point of view. I think. It's,
Do you
I
know
think,
that there's an Easter egg in that battle scene of all the Federation ships attacking?
Falcon.
The Millennium Falcon flies by in the background, fighting the Borg as well.
It's up there with like the Firefly and Battlestar Galactica. I think.
Wait a minute. How did they do that?
They made a model of the Millennium Falcon and they shot it with a camera and then they.
How did Disney shut up? How did Disney not sue or not Disney at that point? How did Lucas not?
I suspect.
ILM, isn't it?
Yeah,
And it's very small. It's very small and kind of. It's
Still.
like 3 pixels. It's not. Like,
Yeah, and it's one of those things that I suspect it's kind of like Honor Amongst Thieves, of like they see it as a tip of the hat. It's not a like we're trafficking in the popularity of Star Wars to prop up Star
I
Trek.
mean, I feel like Disney probably would have done something. Maybe if ILM even saw it, they might have been like, "That's cool."
Well, Lucasfilm was pretty litigious. I remember we did a game called Subsurface Circular.
Heard of it.
Where they have these
Played it.
robot characters. Cool. We have the robot characters called techs, right?
I did the lead actually for that. I did all the.
You were
VO.
the lead. You've silent role, which is but the brave
Probably
one of my most
approached it was
challenging.
incredible.
Can't believe you didn't get the BAFTA for that one, actually.
So we had those robots were called droids in early versions, and we were basically told by our lawyers, do not call them droids. That's why they're called techs, because Lucasfilm has like
they trademarked
did
that.
a lot.
Wow.
Very early, because BattleTech, right, the tabletop game, that was called Battle Droids. So I like that. My favorite thing there is that basically, if you've got this game with droids in it, you're going to end up calling them techs. That's the same thought process. I didn't learn this until much later. That BattleTech did the exact same thing I did. It seems to be just
You want to know how
cognitive confluence.
You want to know how I discovered what you're saying? When Razer first started selling phones, and it was the Android operating system. I was watching a TV commercial, and I just happened to glance down at the bottom of the fine print, and it said Android trademark Lucasfilm in a commercial for a phone, and I was like, "Holy shit!" They had to license
they own Android
or Droid. I guess the Droid. So they literally licensed that for the phone, and acknowledged it in the commercials, and I was like, "Damn, George."
Watch this.
Damn, George.
So when we would go to
of course, sorry, apologies. I just realized ILM was a subsidiary of Lucasfilm, right? So that's how they got the Millennium Falcon, because they were basically the studio that made that special effect shot owned the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, are you saying Star Trek was ILM?
Also ILM.
Star Trek special effects for that movie were done by ILM.
Oh, that makes
basically,
a lot more sense then. Yeah.
If you're watching a Star Trek movie and the special effects look good, it's ILM. If not, then it's the people they bring in whenever they've run out of money. The special effects in any given Star Trek movie are directly correlated with the box office earnings of the previous Star Trek movie.
It means they already had the model.
They wobble a lot.
Troy, I really thought that was beer when you first walked in. That's tea.
No, this is tea. I told you I upped my tea game.
You really did.
I have this steeper.
Yeah.
So I put it in this thing for however long it tells me to do that, and then I just set the cup.
I think you showed us this. It's
this.
pretty cool.
It's like a fresh French press with a hole in the bottom.
Yeah. And so just as soon as it meets that, it pushes a lever and dumps the tea in there. Really
cool.
Good.
Huh.
When I go over to his house, he just microwaves water and hands it to me with a
I'd be happy. It throws it.
I just like that someone looked at a jug and was like,
"Wait a minute,
this isn't
the
finished.
liquid should come out the bottom."
They've been doing this wrong all the time. I don't want to
literally.
pour it. Because when you
it's
pour
a teapot with a hole in it, which is a metaphor often used for a useless thing. It's brilliant.
Well, wait a minute, guys. Maybe we've been doing it all wrong.
Yeah.
So watch this. We would go to some place like the movie theater or whatever, and my big tall friend would stand up at the urinal, and for a joke, he would just completely drop trow so that there was an adult man with his ass hanging
Butt
out
naked.
and butt naked
His
in front of
butters.
everybody else.
Just like
butters.
Butters.
And he would do the whole hands on hips, look, ma, no, while I peed and everything. And
How tall was he?
He's about 6'4", 6'5".
I feel like that adds to it.
It does.
Because it means that those asses are like eye line for other people.
Yeah, and you're used to me seeing a 6-year-old or a 5-year-old do that, but whenever you see a grown man with his pants at his ankles and just
I think that's hilarious.
It's a power play for
every
sure.
time, dude. It was always
I don't see it as a power
laugh.
play. I see it as
It's a total power play.
No, I see it as
It's total power play.
childlike innocence.
It is completely.
Yeah, it is.
He's a
Yeah.
big.
Which
If
is a
he's
power
watching
play.
this right now, I'm talking about you, and I love you enough that I should just out you completely. But he's still one of my
Is this
oldest.
a person we would have heard of? Is this
No,
a
no,
games
no,
industry?
no.
Okay,
Not at all,
You're not
not at all.
outing someone as a. Okay.
No, but
It's
he's
Troy. He's describing himself.
It's
I'm
Troy.
very describing myself.
He was
No,
testing
honestly,
the
I
waters to see how well it was received.
What's the
and-
reaction?
Yeah.
Are people going to be okay with this?
I never had the confidence to be out. That takes supreme confidence. That gives I'm sorry. Where did I keep all my fucks that I have to give? I have none.
Yeah, none. My dad is the guy that would have done that. My dad's favorite thing was farting in public and delighting. He zero fucks given. One time we were at the airport, and the Denver airport had this. You would go through security, and then they had a little tram that would take you to the terminals because they were very far from the central hub where security is. Because it's
I would love to talk about the Denver airport, by the way, but go ahead.
yeah, it goes. It's a sprawling, massive complex, and so there's an escalator that has to go down the equivalent of. How is that?
It's just such an absurd
It's
thing
the
to say.
I would love to talk about
I would
the
love to talk
Denver-
about the Denver.
Can we come back to the Denver airport because there's a very important...
please. Oh my God.
The airport that looks mysteriously
God.
like a swastika on Google
It's so
Maps.
fortunate that nothing happened in video games in the last
We didn't have a
month.
huge news drop this morning at all. No.
I know. We'll get to that.
Really?
I
Will
just,
we?
in the spirit of
Will
the
we?
no fucks given, this was one of these seminal childhood moments for me where we go through security, and then you have to take this escalator that goes down the equivalent of like 3 floors. So it's an inordinately long escalator. And my dad had his carry-on little roller bag and had a Coke can on top. And it was apparently precariously balanced, because as soon as we got on the step, it did the slow motion thing where it hit the bladed front edge of the stair on the escalator that gave it this pinprick hole, and also sent it like rolling end over end, and it shot all the way. And it was one of those perfect 1 in a million things where it was a crowded escalator, but it didn't hit somebody and stop. It managed to hose like 100 people with a mist of sugary, sticky Coke. And like it's going between people's legs, and like it was this thing, and then it gets to the bottom and starts slowly, awkwardly pooling, because like the moving escalator's holding it in position as it's sort of rolling. So there's this little pool of Coke forming, and some little indignant 10-year-old at the bottom goes, "Who did this?" And my dad started jumping up and down, going, "I did it," because he thought it was the funniest thing ever, and he was not gonna let someone else take credit for it. And
Awesome.
Of course, everyone is pissed, and he was just in hysterics. And it was like one of those little glimpses into what it's like to just not give a fuck. And it was a good moment.
That is absurd, and I love it. I'm going to intro the show now.
All
Video
right.
games.
Hey.
I like how I do that with a pause, because I'm scared whenever I do it that someone's going to
know.
derail me. So, hi everyone, I'm Alanah, I'm a video game writer. That's Troy Baker, he's a video game actor. That's Mike Biffle, he's a video game director. And that's Austin Wintry, he's a video game composer. And we talk about anything other than video games, apparently.
It's the show.
Before we get to the biggest news of the morning, which is Xbox Bethesda going through, can we talk about the Denver airport?
Yes.
I would love to.
Finally, someone says what we're all thinking.
No, really, Troy, what is it?
Oh God! If you've never been to, or just Google, Denver
Well, I
Airport.
specifically
and
asked you. So
No,
I don't have to
we thought you'd
Google
have
it.
like some kind of personal
a
insight.
lot of this
Don't
is
foist
you
your
have
labor
to
on us.
you have to see these images, but first of all, it
You're talking about all
costs-
the like conspiracy theories.
total
For an
Yeah.
airport?
There's just some, dude. There
This
are
is-
some.
This is all my.
beyond like
crazy
the idea
ass
that planes
things.
take off.
You're tapping into my childhood here.
Yeah, you talk to pilots, and it was like that airport makes no sense whatsoever. There's too many runways that don't go anywhere. They are laid out incorrectly. There's a whole subterranean network system that runs underneath it. It was
Although they use that. I mean, the subterranean network is how you go from terminal to terminal.
No, this is something different. This is there's
There's a
tunnels-
subterranean.
there's a subreddit.
It's where the Majesco and
The Illuminati.
the Illuminati.
Illuminati.
What's the name of their group in Deus Ex, where you're UNATCO, and then below them is the even more conspiracy people that you sneak out of and end up underneath in your own base.
It's not even that there are conspiracy theories. It's
Majestic
that I found
12.
a list for the most well-known conspiracy theories. How
Yeah.
many are there about this one airport?
There's a
There's
lot of
so
weird
many.
mythology around this thing. Also, famously, when
This is completely new to me.
they were
And I
building
immediately
it.
want to make a video game.
The secret tunnels. If a Masonic tablet or gargoyles, the demonic horse, or Tanguma's murals did not indicate the workings of a secret society or signal the coming of an apocalyptic event, then what of it? Why pepper DIA with them? Many believe that the building itself is a gathering place for governmental officials and the global elite in case of nuclear Armageddon. So there's
In
all
Denver.
sorts of stuff in Denver. But
Denver
there's
actually has a lot of that because of the what's the government missile defense program that's based in Denver.
that's why they keep Whopper. If you've seen war games, nobody really.
No.
Come on,
No,
Did you
That's
play
well,
why
them?
they
and
keep
sa-
Whopper.
Would you like to play a game?
Same with Red Dawn, right? Takes
Yeah.
place in Denver or in Colorado in the mountains.
There's
But
clues
what's the
to Nazi secret societies, horrifying harbingers of doom hidden in public artwork.
everyone claims that there's a lot of coded sort of
There
Masonic
are
temple.
There are. There's not,
They're
we're not
real.
even talking about the debate. There are.
It's not even that they're hidden. It's there's just inexplicable designs put up on walls for no reason, and there's just you'll see numbers and the whole Masonic Lodge thing. I don't have any problem with that. That's just a lovely Dan Brown
I was
popularized
a
theme or
barman.
whatever.
I was a barman for the Freemasons at one point.
Great organization. Whatever. I have no.
Not so great. Not if you're a goat. Anyway, carry on.
You're a goat.
And that's not the way the kids use that word.
But no, it is a remarkably peculiar airport. Like I've never.
Also, it was like 1,000% over budget when they built it. I mean, it was
Yeah.
one of those. It was supposed to cost like $1 billion, and it cost something like $10 billion to
Yeah,
make.
it says
something.
that's
How
a big
cool
part
is
of
the
it.
theoretical truth here that this is just the worst design? There's a show in the UK which everyone should watch called 2012, which is a joke show about the planning of the Olympics. It's the idea of like the worst one, kind of like The Office, but like for the people putting together the London 2012 Olympics. It's brilliant. There was a sequel called W1A where the guy in charge gets put in charge of the BBC, and again, just terrible management. A brilliant show. This is like that. Imagine if you accidentally created a vortex to hell, or like a space that had all of this imagery. Like,
Through bad
this
management.
is just like a bumbling idiot who's like accidentally placing all these Masonic symbols.
This article
like-
I
That's a
found.
good comedy movie. I'd watch that movie. That's
It
a
sounds
funny
like a
movie.
spin-off of Office Space of the I believe you have my stapler guy.
Oh my
This
his
god.
article I
name?
found implies that they have started to play into it, but this article
Yeah, like-
on
They're leading into it.
yeah. Travelandleisure.com says, according to Psychology Today, many people believe conspiracy theories because of their own desire for meaning, certainty, security, or to maintain their own self-image.
Preach. Come on.
but
Absolutely.
In the case of the airport,
It's all true.
It's real.
it says there have always been quite a few because of its construction, including why the airport cost so much more and took more time to build in the first place. So I guess that's the source of them. But I generally
How
think they're
bad
right.
do you have to be at building airports to create an airport that's
I mean,
so wrong that it becomes a
yes.
cultural
Yeah.
You know what?
icon for
You know
it?
what
That's
that
amazing.
taps into? That funny enough, I was like, wait till we're recording. Little behind the scenes on how the show gets made. When you said about conspiracy theories, because you were asking, you said humans are naturally pattern recognizing, and conspiracy theories are
Hey,
part of
we
that.
got there.
Yeah, because I think it was Michael Shermer that gave a great primer on this about the nature of like a type 1 cognition error, which is basically there's false positives and there's false negatives, where if you make a false positive, you are basically wrongly attributing agency to something that is actually nothing. Or the other opposite would be that you basically mistakenly don't attribute agency for which there is something. And so there's a huge evolutionary advantage for false positives, because basically the
At least you're safe.
the bushes move. If it's the wind, I'm safe. But if I just assume it's a tiger, then I react accordingly, I will live more often than if I'm like, it's nothing, and then a
game theory,
tiger
right?
jumps
Yeah.
out. Yeah. So we're predisposed to find patterns in everything and to look for agency. That it's the same. What's the term for when you recognize faces and things? There's a term. There's a psychological term for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Alanah,
people
you
will
normally-
remember in the comments, I'm sure. But that's the same instinct. We look for patterns in things because we've been programmed through many millions of years of evolution.
Like my entire job
yeah.
is to like lead you towards the thing you're meant to be thinking and lead you away from all the dumbass theories. that you've invented
Pareidolia?
yourself. Yeah.
Pareidolia. Yeah.
Pareidolia.
Yeah.
Okay. But is that not evidence of design? Grand design.
Well, exactly. That's
Of a
the
grand
that's
design.
the that's the fuck. What's his name? Why am I today? I'm just all blanks.
Douglas Adams.
Douglas Adams, the pool that the puddle of
I
water
like how
that
you
comes
got
to
that
life.
based on him going. You got Hitchhiker's Guide from. And you went Douglas Adams.
Because where it's
You
clearly
could say I recognized a pattern, right?
From the
There's what the heck? I used to be able to speak some Klingon. I was really cool.
Wow.
I think I actually have conversational Klingon behind me.
Oh my god.
in my
Please do.
if you go on my blog
I
and
do.
if you
Please
see my
do.
if you see my blog entry about
Do the
when
pillow.
I came this close to getting hired for Star Trek Discovery, I hired a choir to sing in Klingon at
No
the Warner
way.
scoring stage, and you
It
can hear
was atrocious.
I think
You can
that's
hear it.
cool.
it was
Sounds
fucking
great. Ship
awesome,
it.
is what
Do
it
you
was.
know? Do you want to know my favorite Klingon fact?
Yes.
Do you know there's
More than
there is
anything
a
right now.
there is a specific, I think it's a transitive tense or something. There's a specific part of the language that exists entirely because an actor it was Christopher Lloyd in 3. Exactly, yeah. That was very good.
4, right?
4, 3.
3 is Search for Spock.
Yeah, Lloyd's in
4
3.
is the voyage home, so it'd be 5.
Four's your Wales
country.
and your
So 6 is, am I wrong?
undiscovered country.
6 is undiscovered country.
5 is God.
God.
Terrible movie. But Christopher Lloyd basically messed up his line.
And the one that
the
Shatner directed, we should include. The worst one is the one
5.
that Shatner directed. Yeah.
Because of a favored nations clauses for the win. But what was I say? Christopher Lloyd messed up his line, and Mark Okrand, who's the guy who also I've got his book as well.
God damn, dude, you're on fire today.
He
What we're learning is that Mike actually really doesn't want to talk about video games ever, and it's out of courtesy for us.
So Mark
that he
Okrand,
pauses
who invented Klingon, Vulcan. I think he also worked on Lord of the Rings on the Elvish language.
Wow.
Although a lot of that was already done.
That
by
was Tolkien
but
that did that, right?
It was, but there was some stuff they had to develop. I can't remember why, like something about spoken rather than written. Anyway. Basically, Christopher Lloyd, apologized to Mark Okrand. He's like, I've messed up your line. And the director liked it, wanted to move on. And Okrand's like, it's fine, I'll change the language. There's an entire tense within Klingon as this made-up language that exists only because Christopher Lloyd couldn't get the phonetic pronunciation correct. And they've had to work around that. So
That's how we end up with words like
all those
hype.
Klingon plays. Yeah, all your Klingon opera and your Klingon singers and the Shakespearean translations are all based on essentially Christopher Lloyd flubbing a line and the director going, good enough.
That's cool, though.
Yeah, I love that. That's to me right up there, like with Harrison.
That's a talented guy as well who can take that and go with it and make that work.
Those kinds of impactful in the moment stories, that's to me analogous to one of the defining moments of the character of Indiana Jones is him pulling out the gun and shooting the big swordmaster guy. And that was entirely because Harrison Ford had diarrhea and couldn't shoot for more than like 5 seconds at a time.
Wow.
He was wildly ill on set. And
have you seen the bonus takes of the whole fight?
Of that scene, like they attempted to do it?
Yeah, there's a whole, oh my God.
That's the book to read, anyone who's interested. This isn't by him.
I love that you got it 3 pounds off too.
I did get.
Can you say it out loud for audio listeners, Mike?
It is The Art of Language Invention, and it's written by the guy who.
Yeah, you're reading the English. We're talking
Dothraki.
about speak the weird language. Do that thing.
I was like, I don't even know.
I love how that sailed right.
Yes, it says. I believe if my translation is correct, this says antibacterial gel.
There is an art, like seriously, like the guy. This is by the guy who did Dothraki. That's where I got confused. So he like there's a real like artistry to creating fake language.
Absolutely.
On a human level, talking about pattern recognition, you know, even if you can't speak a word of a language, you know a real language from like gibberish.
This
like,
is why
the
the speaking in tongues people are so obviously faking it.
Right.
Like it's a very obvious tell, because you're right. We can hear that's why I always loved Mila Jovovich's like rant in Fifth Element when they first like 3D print her and she does this explosion of language that really does sound like an actual non-Earth language. And I always remember thinking that must be hard to learn as an actor because you're fighting all of these instincts that your language has kind of beaten into you. And now you have to sort of step outside that.
Have you ever had
totally
that happen to you where you've forgotten English for like where you've been sick or something and English has become gibberish for you?
I also can handle snakes and not get poisoned.
I've had it. I had it for about 2 minutes. It's the most terrified I've ever been. I was in front of the TV and everyone on the TV was speaking gibberish, and my brain, whatever part of my, because I imagine your language center, just I was sick and tired, and
it almost sounds like a very minor stroke or something.
Yeah,
That's what I was going to go with.
It was weird, and it was like
no, Mike, that was a stroke.
Fucking terrifying.
Oh yeah.
Like just on it, like I know they're speaking. This is the news. It was like the news was on or something. I was like, I know that guy is on the news, and I couldn't understand. It was. I was hearing mouth sounds but couldn't process them as language.
Very well
it was the weirdest thing.
My mom,
absolutely terrifying.
My mom once took a medication. She was dealing with migraines, and she took a medication that like nothing was working. So she kind of went out on a limb with a slightly off the beaten path medication that caused her to have a seizure.
Coke.
And she had a seizure, and
which was dropped from the top of the escalator. Hey.
Terrible, but good
Thank
recall.
You. Cheers.
No,
I do listen.
I am concerned about the story about your mother having a seizure. I just want to be clear. We laughed all over that. That is quite serious.
She's okay now.
She's okay now. It was a very alarming thing because
terrifying.
she
you know what it was?
was 20 years ago. I don't know.
I have migraines and have just been recommended trying CBD oil for it.
It was definitely not that.
I don't
it was like a narcotic. I mean, it was like, because hers were real bad, like debilitating, and so it was, and it's something she's dealt with forever. And there was definitely this coming out of the fog period that was very, like, had stages, and at first she couldn't remember how to speak. So my dad, I remember, was sitting with her, sort of, because him being a doctor, I think he immediately clocked what the signs were of what was going on. And so he was just sort of trying to be very calm, because, imagine the confusion. And if someone is erratically and they're freaking out talking to you, it would only add to the anxiety. So he was very dispassionate. He was always extremely cool under pressure anyway, being a surgeon, I guess, pretty essential. And so, yeah, I remember walking in.
What does this thing do?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Dr. Nick style. One of my favorite Simpsons bits ever of going under, right, as Dr. Nick goes, "What the hell is that?" Yeah. But I remember
scary.
she regained the ability to speak before her memories were fully intact, because I remember she did not know who anybody was, and she knew she should know. But I remember my sister walks in the room and she was like, "I know I should know who you are." Like, it was one of those really weird middle zones where you've got part of the apparatus working again, and then the other half is just not there.
I have a question.
We're just meat computers.
I have a question first.
It's scary.
Oh, go along, please.
Troy, have you ever had to
Yes.
speak a different language for a role?
Yes.
And any made up ones?
Oh, yeah.
Pathless.
How's it work for you?
Oh, Pathless. Yeah, the entirety of Pathless, right?
Dude. That was all written out, and to his credit, he wrote that language. Like, he could tell me exactly what it was that we were saying. Oh, dude, this is going to get real interesting. So, growing up the way that I
Bonus
did...
points if you can incorporate the bathroom guy with the...
I can, actually, in some ways.
But don't
I
reveal
will-
to us one person in the story that Troy's about to tell is the bathroom guy.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not going to
And
tell
that
you which
person
one.
was bathroom man.
One person, you're right. Yeah, we don't want to.
The
So-
answer
limit.
will shock you.
Growing up the way that I did, I grew up in the height of what was called the Charismatic Movement of the 80s. This is when churches moved out of the traditional and into the contemporary. So it was, now we got electric guitars up on stage, and we've got people with tambourines and streamers, and people are dancing,
Feet
people are
of clay
speaking in
and-
tongues. Even though the speaking in tongues thing actually dates to like early 20th century. It's like 1908, I think, is when that kind of like became popular, became the Pentecostal revolution.
It was the cinema of its day.
It was the Fellini knew nothing about.
Yeah.
So
I love the runway that you need for this story.
I want to lay proper tarmac for this. So that was kind of like
with the Masonic temple.
It was the best of times.
and
It was the
all
worst
happened
of times.
underground at the Denver airport. I'm telling you guys, I've seen some lizard people.
Can't tell if this is the best or the worst one of these we've done.
I was a
It was
fairly
the best
inventive.
of episodes. It was the worst of episodes.
I was a
The
fairly inventive
duality
kid.
of.
I could create. I didn't have a lot of toys, and so the ones that I did, I had to do a lot with. And so I didn't have like the big Transformers playset. I would have one GoBot. So I had to create worlds, and I had to create characters. And I think that's by and large where I was able to use that part of my imagination to be able to turn that into a career. So being able to, and I would do the voices for all my different G.I. Joes or Transformers or whatever it was that I had. And so being able to create a language or be able to create different sounds for me came, I don't know, naturally, but it was something that I had a proclivity at least towards. Growing up the way that I did, it was that speaking in tongues thing was very prevalent in my growing up and in the church that I grew up in. So I was used to kind of hearing, but what's interesting is everybody has their own specific take on it. Everyone has, and you will notice these kind of like repetition of patterns, syllables, consonant sounds, that kind of thing. So the ability to mimic voices, and like what Mike was talking about earlier, being able to absorb that and be able to kind of like adapt to that was something that I had as well. So being able to create a language was something that I would do. I would also fake being able to, if I understood the accent of French, I could fake the words and I could fake Spanish or whatever. So yeah, a lot of times, like even in for Young Justice, like Markovian is a completely made up language, but it's something that would be. They were very cool about. They're like, what's most important is that there's not a lexicon that you need to follow. It's understand the intent, and if you flub some syllables or whatever, it's more about the performance than it is the phonetics. So yeah, I've had to do that a lot, and it's something that can trip you up. Laura Bailey she speaks Simish, like she had to learn, or Simlish, I think is what it's actually called.
Yeah.
So she had so she had to do that, and she was like, that is a language.
Is she the Sims voices?
She was for the longest time.
I was going to ask, is Simlish? I thought that Simlish was just like kind of phonetic guesses and not an actual language.
It is a language.
Wow.
Like
there's like specific like words and structures.
I know Katy Perry did a Simlish song.
Like they have to.
I wonder if that is translated, because that, like, you can watch her do that and she's clearly reading it, but it does sound similar enough to the actual song, and I'd never considered that they would be one-to-one translated.
Yeah, it's hard.
We did that on Tooth and Tail also. The kind of, we wanted to make something that sounded very Slavic and very sort of Russian, but is its own. It's its own.
This is the book on how to do that.
You can't invoke the same book twice. That's not Bethelian.
Fine, I'll find
send me that book. I'm very interested in that book. It's
a really good book. Cool. Yeah, I'll share it with you.
The question I was going to ask, if I may, Alanah, for you, we discussed like a couple weeks ago about alternative medicines or whatever, and then you mentioned CBD oil. If you had, I've never had a migraine. To my knowledge, I've never had a migraine. I've had severe headaches, but as I understand, there's something completely different. So, and I don't like when people go, "Oh, I've got a migraine." It's like, no, you don't.
When I get migraines, and it happens probably once a month or so, it is shaking, being in a dark room and trying desperately not to vomit. And I would say probably 80% of the time I vomit. So the issue with having a migraine is not like, oh, I have a bad headache. It is debilitating vomiting. Like, I will be shaking like this. I will hit my own head repeatedly to like try to like get rid of this awful pain, but you can't do anything. And the biggest issue that I have with having migraines is you don't know when they're going to happen, and they will wipe you out for 8 hours. And then you're just fine. But for that 8 hours, it's like, I can't work. I can't do anything. I can't go anywhere. I can't even look at my phone sometimes to communicate that I can't do anything. It like fully fucks you up for one day, no control over it. And I'm like, it's the most infuriating thing, because like I've had to miss things by having a migraine, and I'm just like, I just have to sit here and try not to vomit and cry for fucking 8 hours. They're so bad.
And as I understand it, the cause of them is it's not like, oh, I had too much caffeine or whatever. It's the cause of it is a completely different thing. I had a friend who had migraines, and he knew, like, all of a sudden, if he got this one warning sign, he goes, I have 18 minutes.
I think my warning sign is my eyes stinging, but I'm not positive.
Interesting.
So that's the thing that you have to figure out. Yeah, you have to figure it out over a really long plan of time, patterns again, like figure out what it is that's causing your migraines, because for everyone it's different. I think mine comes, if my eyes are stinging the night before, then I will have a migraine the next day, but I'm not positive about that yet. I'm still trying to figure it out. And
it's not even like, oh, I need to stop doing this. It's like, no, this is going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
He would be like, he would literally stand up from work and leave, drive home, and he was like, I have to get home in 12 minutes or I will not have any vision left. And that friend was the bathroom guy. That's serious.
Really?
But
if there's one hobby you don't want to develop as someone who can be debilitated at any time, it's dropping your trousers in public places, right?
The question that I have
seems like a terrible idea for him.
If you could go to acupuncturist and they're like, we have found that this specific, you put a little pin here in your big toe or whatever it would be. It's never in the place that you would think of. It's never going to be in your head. It's going to be as like, oh yeah, give me your left pinky, and we're going to put a pin there, and it assuaged it. What does that mean? Does that mean, like, because we talked about like medicine is like.
Basically, Alanah, the neuroscientist, is being asked a question.
I don't know what that means.
No, I'm saying, like, does it matter? Like, and the same thing. If someone said you go up to that mountain,
I don't care what gets rid of it. Just get rid of it, as long as it's not like heroin. But yeah, if someone's like, I'm going to put a needle in your foot and it's going to get rid of it, I'll be like, cool, get rid of it.
Can I
infuriating.
I really want to know what your thoughts are on this. Yeah.
I want to quote. I'm just going to jump in with one thing, because I am, like, me, aggressively anti alternative medicine. So I'll say my piece and then I'll go. I want to quote the animation that Austin mentioned earlier, which is Storm by Tim Minchin, and the best line in that whole thing is, there is a word for alternative medicines that have been proven to work. And it's called medicine.
Yeah.
What you're saying, if the acupuncture says we have found this to work on this, if that were true, if science had found that there was any correlation between sticking needles in people,
It's just a medicine
you'd
at
just
that
get
point?
that in the ER. Like it would just be part of the process. The reason it's not is because it's bollocks and has been proven scientifically to not have an effect, except placebo. Beyond placebo, of course. Which
That's
will
what I
always
was
have
just
an
about to add. Is that there is
placebo will always have an impact. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you feel like you're proactively doing something to help and you're calming down, or like perfect example is there was a story in I think Chile of the miners trapped in a mine and they're waiting to be rescued, and it's like if everybody stops and prays for rescue, they're consuming less oxygen. They're a lot calmer. There's a lot of second order effects that the prayer actually helps facilitate, but you can't
There have
demonstrate.
been scientific studies that have implied that prayer, for the exact reason you say, actually does technically work in terms of
you can
improving
call it
things.
whatever though.
Sure, it helps
it's
people on a
just it's a
plane.
shorthand for that thing. It's
Any
like,
level of
if you-
belief, if you believe in something, then that can help you. But yeah, and I think it's even the example used in Storm is paracetamol is just a leaf. Essentially, was where they found the chemical. It was a thing they found in the woods, and people would eat it, and they'd notice that their headaches would go away. And that is ridiculous. And if that was something I said to you, there's this leaf you guys have got to try chewing on because it removes headaches, you'd laugh at me and say that was ridiculous. And
Not
most people
necessarily.
did. Well, the ones that had your attitude, the scientists, Troy, they went and they tested it, and they realized, oh shit, this actually works. We can make this, and more importantly, we can sell this. That's what happens to any medicine that actually works. Is humanity incorporates it into our medicinal kind of processes.
But that isn't. I don't think that all medicine is a pill, right?
No, of course not. No, there's plenty of medicines that
Well,
aren't,
you
for
can't
sure.
with a migraine
The things
because I
that
would
work.
just vomit it up. That does not work.
Yeah,
It is
so
not an option.
yeah, there's plenty of medicines fucking physiotherapy is a medicine, right? But that's, because that has been proven through scientific process to work, that's provided as a real medical
Well, does
service.
that mean that if I say that one of the only things that helps me with a migraine is sleep, and that's only if I can fall asleep, if it's not bad enough, that sleep in that case is a medicine?
It's a treatment, I would call it.
I feel like that's more fair.
Your body heals itself ultimately on a lot
maybe
of
that's a
fronts,
good-
right? We can help. I would say your body's natural healing factor, to use fucking Wolverine because I know what kind of podcast I'm on. Like your natural healing factor wouldn't be medicine per se, but it's part of your process. And most medicines actually work in tandem with your own inherent.
Fair.
Your body wants to survive, so therefore, your body has through evolution developed procedures and processes and chemical reactions which encourage you to survive. The body doesn't want anything. So sleep probably isn't a medicine, but like you choosing
It's a
to go
healing
to sleep
factor.
is arguably a medicine.
Yeah.
Because that's
Yeah, Troy, I feel like you've been trying to say something for ages. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No. I've never looked at it differently. So here's my position, and I can be unashamed about this. I grew up. Again, we're talking a lot about my childhood, so thank you very much for our 50 minutes of therapy.
I was going to say
This would
we're
cost.
very,
We should be being paid. This is.
I was I was going to like.
I
we're going to
realized more
forward the
about
bill.
me. I grew up with, I'm not trying to be disparaging my parents, but they definitely were like, what can I take? What can I take? What can I take? And our house was always a pharmacy. It was like literally every day. And my parents would mix BC powder, which was an analgesic and potent kind of like a headache medicine. And they would mix that with, whatever pill they were being told that they needed to take right there. And they went through all of the designer pharmaceuticals. As soon as it was out, they were taking it. And it was not recreational, it was therapeutic. They were like, I'm trying to cure whatever it is, the problem that I have. But I watched as it never met the thing, and I watched as it became they were addicted to it. There was never a day that was spent without having one of those things. Instead of pouring a bourbon, it was pouring a BC powder and whatever cocktail of drugs. So
Just so I'm
much-
clear, are you saying
Yeah.
actual especially narcotics, you can develop chemical dependencies on medication no differently than any other drug?
For sure.
But are
And
you
medical
but
corporations can be evil, right? Like Oxycontin is an
Absolutely.
excellent example.
I doubt
of-
it.
Well, I wasn't going to say
You can't prove
in a
that.
non-litigious way. It is my opinion based on my assumptions and information I've seen, because I assume that's a very litigious company that That there are.
Are you a doctor, Mike?
I don't
Are
buy
you a
it for a
doctor?
second.
There are legal. There are definitely cases where corporations have sold medicine and the profit motive has surpassed the.
Oh my god, yeah, in the US,
therapeutic method.
like, I'm layering that so heavily with sarcasm because there have been so many cases about that where it's almost, like, it's disgusting by how much they've inflated medicine prices for very basic needs.
And just the simple business of, hey, we really believe in this. I've seen the reps come through the doctor's office where it's like, for every one of these prescriptions you fill, we're not going to give you money for it, of course.
Can I recommend socialized medicine?
Dude.
How on brand of you at this point.
It's great. You never have to work. You have a science-led process by which drugs are worked out, and we all get them for free.
The hard switch.
Well, that's actually
would be-
factually wrong, we have to say. Like,
Oh, I know. I have to pay 10 quid sometimes for a specific
No.
drug.
I'm
I
just saying the cost is amortized across the
The
entire
cost as well is
populace.
paid by
Undoubtedly.
taxes, of course.
Yes, I'm not a fan of the equation.
From
the equation
from
of
the many based on their ability to pay rather than on how unhealthy or sick they are.
Fair. I think that's a whole subject to unpack, and I'm very much personally a work in progress.
I'm sorry,
my
I
education
completely
there.
derailed. Troy should be allowed to go back to where he was because I just.
Well, actually, I was in the
know where I
middle.
was.
I was in the middle of asking.
Where was I?
I was mid question for Troy when you talked about your parents' addiction. I was asking,
Oh,
are
no,
we
no, no.
talking about a literal like the OxyContin example that Mike brings up, or are we just talking to someone who became like a hypochondriac that just always thinks something's wrong and always needs to be feeding the treatment of that, even though it's not the same thing as a chemical addiction?
Right. And I also, to kind of further that point,
Well, that's a question.
What?
I was just curious when you refer to your parents as being addicted, if it was to a literal medication or if it was just the
idea.
act of treating
I see what you're
something
saying.
is like inherently addicting.
I don't know. I know that.
Not that that's any of my business. It's kind of an invasive question to ask you, but I'm
Not
just
at all.
curious for.
Look, man, I'm an open book.
It's kind of your.
I knew about Prozac. I knew about Xanax. I knew about Zoloft. But when they first came out, like I was the hipster of that. Not because I took them, but because I was in. They were in my house. I had a doctor that
Did
put
you
me on
swipe it to
Prozac.
sell on the schoolyard?
The same doctor that my father had said, you have problems with feeling these things. Here, take this pill. And I took it for a week, and I didn't give a fuck about anything. I was like, I realized after the week, I went, I don't care. There's no ambition, no drive.
Yeah.
It's just level. It wasn't that I was happy. It wasn't that I was sad. I was just like, I was blissfully ambivalent, and
They're
I've never
spacing these
taken it
kids
again.
out with some of this stuff.
It is. So I don't know if my parents were addicted to the behavior, to the treatment. I myself, there are no known chemical dependencies or addiction to cannabis. But I know for me, I went a year where every night I was like, well, I need to make sure that I go to sleep. And so I would smoke a bowl, or I would, somehow do something to where cannabis became my nightcap.
We tell ourselves stories that can be very convincing to ourselves that you don't need the sort of like biochemical process of addiction to become addicted to something,
true.
because you've just told yourself, I need this to fall asleep.
Well,
If
your
you tell
body
yourself-
also can biochemically addict itself to whatever anyway. And I think
that's
I'm
interesting.
right that that's where the science is right now. Is ultimately that you can become addicted to most things that your body will develop its own dependencies, which is where you get things like
Dependency.
sex
Even
addiction,
to
food addiction.
Yeah,
like things
really
that-
basic
yeah.
stuff. Like I have chocolate
Yeah.
once, and I will want chocolate every day after that, and I can go months without it, not want it, but I have it one time, and I'm like, I need more chocolate. I need more chocolate.
Or
every
Working
fucking day.
out. There's endorphins that your body releases when you work out. There's people that become addicted to the gym.
Yeah.
I think that addictive behavior is something that we absolutely unpack. The reason why I put this forth is I wholly admit that I have, by and large, a negative view on medicine. I will suffer through, I'm not in the same position that Alanah's in. I will suffer through a headache or drink water or do anything else besides taking a pill, because for me and my own baggage and my own reasons,
Like
I
from
don't
the
like to
childhood
resort.
experiences you're talking
Well,
about.
I think I'm generally
Exactly.
the same. I would prefer not to take a pill if I can avoid taking a pill, but if I'm in pain, I'm going to do it. But I hate the way I feel when I'm on painkillers, so reduce it as much as I can. And
Yeah.
I don't know many people really at all who are like super pro, like, just give me a pill.
Give
Oh
me
my
that
God.
ibuprofen. Let's do this, motherfucker. Yeah.
I do know those people. It's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I got a little bit of a headache. I'm
Evidently,
going to take this. They keep them. If that. By the way, I'm not in any way maligning, disparaging those people at all. It's. I fully own that. It is my. As with everything, I think in life, we are coming from this. As Austin said, we're telling this story from our personal experiences. Our ink
Yeah, I
is
don't feel
different
any
than
judgment
everybody
here
else.
from you, Troy. It's
Cool.
just how you feel.
But I do think that if Austin pointing out the difference between medicine and treatment. So maybe it's not that acupuncture. Like I could tell you is like, dude, I felt fucking different after going to that acupuncturist. I was like, I didn't know what this was going to be. That's not medicine.
It's
treatment.
If before you go into that appointment,
Neither is psychotherapy, but for that matter too, by the way. Go ahead.
if you are completely committed to the idea, if your brain, even on a subconscious level, fully believes that this acupuncture is going to help you, the odds that it will are vastly higher. That's just the nature of psychosomatic interactions.
Even the process of
wasn't.
any. So the other thing that's really interesting, which builds on what Austin's saying, is actually any procedural thing. This has been found out several times. Is the placebo. The easiest way to make the placebo effect more effective is to welcome you into a room, give you a receptionist to talk to. They've got a big form with a pen, and they go, "Oh, yes, sir, you're in room 3," and you go there. The ritual of like, "Oh, I'm in a
doctor's
process."
office.
Same reason that we put loading bars in games that lie to you all the time, because you have that sense of someone has this under control and they're going to take care of me. As a massive placebo, much more than just giving you the pill. If we give you the placebo pill, it's a good shot and tell you it's medicine. It will often work. If we walk you through the kind of the Disney theme park queue of like, let's take you to the room, let's do this. Oh, here's the doctor. The doctor has a well-groomed beard and looks kind of knowledgeable, and and goes through all of this process. That's what can enhance it. And even if you go in and you're like, I'm open-minded, in the same way as no one believes advertising works on them, but advertising works on all of us. It's the same kind of vibe. Like you go in with, they're building, any process is building that effect. And yeah, where you get into the interesting ethical and moral thing is if the trick works, should you get a refund for the magic show? Do you know what I mean? Like, and I can kind of relate to that. Where I get concerned is when these things are presented as alternatives to actual medicine.
There, I'm with you 100%.
Yeah. And so this is like, there's anybody that is into this conversation, Darren Brown Miracle, is a wonderful. It is the matinee version of like presented in the best possible way of this conversation, including faith healers, speaking in tongues, alternative medicines, all those things.
I'd also podcast listeners, Ono, Ross, and Kerry. It's really good. If you've not listened,
who is it?
Ono, Ross, and Kerry. They do. They're two skeptics. They do investigation. So they'll go and join Scientology for 5 episodes. Or they'll go and learn. At the moment, they're learning how to exorcise people, and they're in the training program for exorcism.
I'm into it.
That's very cool.
That kind of reminds me of.
I'd definitely
Remember, Penn and Teller had a show called Bullshit. Also, that was a similar,
same vibe.
Like, or even MythBusters are kind of in that category.
I'm into it. I believe this. There's an example on one of the nerdy shows that I watch, but they said if you could represent film, or if you could represent the spectrum of light as film strip, 35 millimeter film strip, it would stretch from LA to San Francisco or something like that. And what the human eye is capable of seeing would fit on a single frame. It's like the spectrum of light that we're able to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think me and Alanah were doing the same nerdy. Well, it depends on your scale. Anything could be big or small, but it's relative, you're saying. That makes sense.
So the reason why I bring up that example is I go, there's a lot of shit that I can't see. There's a lot of shit that I don't know. There's a lot of shit that I'm constantly learning about. And I love that example in Thor where he says, what you call science, we call magic. And so it's this borderline semantical argument, except for the fact that lives could depend upon it. I don't believe that anybody should go, I reject this in favor of this. I believe it's also and.
You can have as many people blow incense into your face as possible, like as long as you also go to a doctor. Like I agree completely with you.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. But I do worry that there's an erosive effect. I worry that, and this is a slippery slope argument, which is never a good place to go rhetorically. Sure. But I do worry that if we open the door to like this is an additional treatment, you inevitably there's going to be some people along the way who go, well, I don't like going to the doctor, but the person who does my alternative therapy is friendlier and I like them more. I'll skip the doctor this week. And I do worry about the kind of a potential transition that we have by not acknowledging this as an entertainment product and calling it medicine.
But if it has results, does it matter? If it has results,
it
does
won't
matter?
make you better. It might, like the placebo effect. I think I'm right. Austin,
No, I'm
right,
not talking about placebo effect.
It will make
I'm
you
saying,
feel.
Yeah,
Well, it
I'm
doesn't
saying
have an effect. If it had an effect, it would be available for you at your local hospital. If it was real and scientifically endorsed.
I mean,
Yeah.
I guess my
don't know if
situation
that's
with migraines
true.
to bring
How?
it back.
Why wouldn't you? If you could sell acupuncture as a process that would actually cure you of any illness or any problem,
They do it at hospitals, I agree.
They do it in
I hear what
hospitals.
you're saying, but we've done that now with cannabis.
So cannabis, yes. Well, what's interesting with CBD is it's a specific. That's what happens. Actually, it's a really good example of what I'm talking about. Is once you acknowledge the medicinal potential of an alternative thing, and then you test it and you find out, oh shit, cannabis does help people. What CBD is an extraction of the aspect that helps you. That's my understanding, at least, away from the stuff which gets you high. Right? Like CBD won't get you high.
Right, there's no THC.
Yeah,
there's
no
there's
THC.
Yeah,
just
it's but this is what I'm talking about is the industrialization of a process where they go, okay, let's do the science, let's find out why do people who are smoking cannabis feel better? Oh, it's because of this, this, and this. How do we make that more potent? How do we make it cheaper to produce? How do we make
Now-
it safer? All of these kind of questions. And that's where you get to medicine.
So how long did it take us for us to do that?
Between cannabis is popular adoption in Western culture to that, you're looking at, I know that the weed legalization conversation dates back to, like, in terms of public discourse, like the 50s, right? So maybe like 70
No,
years, 80
even
years?
before then. So the reason why tobacco, yes, weed, no, is because
Tobacco,
of...
by the way, behind the scenes, the main voice arguing for the legalization for cannabis. There's so much stuff
Exactly.
that's been like freedom
And
of
it has always
information
been.
out, like from the 60s,
sure.
them demanding this. Yeah.
But the reason why the and I'm not talking about smoking pot is a medicine. I'm saying that the medicinal purposes of CBD oil that we are now seeing, and there's a lot of people that say it's bullshit too, but
The science doesn't agree with those people.
right. So, what I'm saying is like this probably putting it through, as you say, the industrialization, the process of that. Whereas before, the litigious argument for it was by and large being propagated by tobacco farmers. So it wasn't the medical benefits and the properties of CBD or marijuana or cannabis or whatever never changed. It's just that we were slow to adopt it. So what I'm saying is it could very well be, holy shit, we used to give pills to people for this when all we needed to do is stick a needle in them.
No, so the difference in your argument there is there were doctors saying that weed did this from the point where there were scientists who were doing the research.
Well, I have not
They've
had
done
a,
research. There's been a lot of research into acupuncture, and all of it has proven it to have zero effect.
I've
Because
not
sticking
had a
needle in your
doctor
ankle doesn't make
recommend
your headache go away.
CBD oil to me, but I will say that like what they have recommended, because I vomit up pills, is suppositories, and I'm like, but I don't want to do that. So by
It's
choice,
not fun enough to do that, I imagine.
I am
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
other stuff. Like, if I could not do that, that would be great. So it's CBD oil that was not recommended by a doctor. That's recommended by other people who've had migraines.
I guess the problem I have and the concern I have is if there wasn't CBD oil, if they just said to you, suppository's the way to go, and then you'd also gone, well, I don't like that, but like maybe I can try this alternative therapy that doesn't actually work, then potentially if this was in any way a life-threatening kind of situation,
Oh, for sure.
you would be less
just
likely
feel
to
like
take the suppository, which
It
sucks,
assumes-
because that's the thing
It
that'll make you
assumes a
better.
lot about medicine, right? It's
What
them
does,
doing
sorry?
the notion of like, if it's not medicine, it's not good. It assumes a lot of that as opposed to
If
saying...
it's not been proven by the scientific method to make people better, it's not good.
I don't agree with
it's-
not good
Yeah, I would
Sorry,
say
not good,
it's
you're
not
right.
effective. Not effective.
Ineffective. Ineffective.
or potentially
so-
ineffective.
Right, but I guess what I'm
More
putting
likely
it,
ineffective than effective.
I agree.
we used to prescribe cocaine, heroin, OxyContin.
They
We've
fucking
done a
worked as well. That's the thing, right?
Medicine has been wrong before, though, too.
Medicine's wrong.
That's what
Science
I'm
is a
saying.
process and things get better.
Hello,
What
Right,
doesn't
but
happen
here. What
is a
is
thing
this
that's
show?
existed for thousands of years that doesn't work, doesn't suddenly then get found to work. No one's going to do a study and go, shit, guys, acupuncture's real. That's not
So
going to
it
happen.
didn't work for me.
It worked. If it worked for you, it worked on a placebo level, and God bless you if that worked for you. I'm not knocking you as an individual doing it. Where I have concerns is at an institutional level that we...
No. What I'm talking about, it's not a placebo level.
It is.
Okay.
The science would imply it is, anyway. So.
Okay, so if I look at a muscle and a muscle has a knot in it, right, which is a collection of toxins or whatever it is, and a needle goes dunk right there and it goes, so that's a placebo?
Massage is not a placebo. Massage and physiotherapy have been found through research
Those
to
would be
improve. So pressure on a knot does stop the knot from existing.
But that's acupuncture.
No, acupuncture is sticking a needle into someone.
That's what I'm saying. I had a knot.
And that's the thing is is these processes when they do these studies, they will, and it's double. This is where I need to be very careful. I don't say the wrong thing. Double blinds and tests like that. They will go, okay, does acupuncture have an effect over massage? Does the needle going into your skin actually change the outcome? Because yes, applying pressure to a knot will relieve that tension and will improve it. That's why sports massage is actually scientifically proven and demonstrated in large part. I think there's, as always, there's kind of weird sidebars, but like there is evidence of that. No one has ever scientifically demonstrated or proven the hypothesis via testing that sticking a needle in someone makes them better.
Especially, there's also...
that's specific in the acupuncture way. Obviously, if that needle is connected to a syringe that has medicine in it, it's very effective.
Also, there's the added challenge of the fact that everything that I know about acupuncture is that the claims are often very vague. For example, Troy, you used the word toxins, which is one of those kind of terms that has no actual meaningful definition in medicine. To say, let's flush the toxins from the body. It's like, well, what's the actual like molecular composition of what you're talking about? Because everything is going to end up coming down to specifics. You get rid of this by doing that. You get rid of this. This is a thing you don't actually want to get rid of. But if you have too much of it, it's detrimental to the working of the liver. Blah, 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 blah,
that's
blah.
what
A toxin is supposed to actually be a antigenic poison or venom of a plant or animal origin. So we do use that word completely incorrectly most of the time. Also, I have to go.
Oh, shit.
Should I just let you guys continue to have this conversation? Because I could just keep recording.
It's about the four of us.
But I have work.
I have one.
You go to work.
Just real quick, Mike, are you okay? The royal family, I feel, has been heavily disrupted, and I just want to make sure on a personal level you're surviving it okay?
I think it sucks that we have a royal family, and I think it's awful that they're institutionally allowed to bully
who could imagine them being
seems
racist,
like a decent
though?
human being.
Like, who would have thought that?
That's the thing that's hilarious,
really
is the reason this news story has got the legs it has.
I only brought this up for the laugh.
Everyone
You were the worst.
Everyone knows all of these stories are, or everyone presumes, myself included, and I would not make a final statement on this, but everyone presumes these stories are absolutely true, because it would be amazing. It would be the most surprising thing in the world if the royal family were the only rich people in the UK who weren't racist.
Who've also slept with their own cousins or married their own cousins to avoid letting anyone else in the family.
A literal embodiment of white rich supremacy. By birth. I mean,
the whole notion of blood needing to be pure is kind of what royalty, like by definition, means.
Yeah,
and a family who the last person who abdicated, and I don't think Harry has abdicated because technically he can't because he wasn't in line to the throne, he's obviously he is. No, he's not. He's off the line now because of the kid. Anyway, I wish I didn't have bits of my brain that were full of this bollocks, because it's not, the royal family is just this joke that all of us have really committed to, and it's really annoying.
But I love how in America we all watch it like it's days of our lives, and we're like, oh my god, I can't believe what happened today.
I love.
The problem is it's a symbolic realization of something awful. Like the class system in the UK is horrific, and they are the kind of the agreed upon delusion that backs up the whole system, and they shouldn't be there. The people, I'm sure there's good people in the royal family, there's bad people in the royal family.
Gotta go.
But let them just be people, let them go and have jobs and do things.
And on that note...
My taxes go on the royals, it's not fair. But also on medicine.
All right, bye everyone. Thank you.